How's it going? I'm Nick Partagas. I teach English here at Mast, and I'm glad that you're doing this. By the way, just getting different people's points of view. I'm really big on that. Just hearing each other out. I try to keep this, fairly concise. My parents did come from Cuba when they were pretty small, so they don't have a whole lot of memory from there. But of course, growing up in Miami with a Cuban family, we still have relatives over there that we keep in contact with, and we send money and things like that. And it's important to realize that a lot of those experiences, while they inform our decision making, so many people have similar stories from different countries over the years. And it's good to just try to know your history as best you can, your family history, but also how it affects other people or what you may or may not have in common with them. And so when it comes to Cuba, I'll say that in my own family, there's tons of disagreement, right? It's one of those things that unfortunately, even though we love each other, when it comes to politics and religion and things like that, as you and lots of other people I'm sure have seen yourselves one way or another, it can be very divisive, even when things seem like they should obviously, bring us together. So sometimes we don't talk about it as much as we want to, because when we do, people will get, upset, should you visit, should you not visit, what ends up helping, the people the most. My mom herself, she was very pro the embargo for a very long time. And she went to visit last year, and it was pretty emotional. She was happy that she finally went over there. Even, she went with some other family members. Other family members that didn't go were very judgmental. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, let's keep the peace, but they thought that was a horrible idea. All that money is going to go straight to the government. I do see that side, but I also see how the family wants us to visit. They want to try to stay connected. I hadn't known that one of my relatives is actually an English teacher. This whole time I had no idea. As an English teacher, he named his two sons Hamlet and Rembrandt. And it made me pretty emotional. I had one of my misgivings was not just, is it the right thing to go or not just, are people going to judge you? I mean, that's a small part of it, but it's petty compared to, me not really knowing what's the right thing to do. It's morally ambiguous. But then hearing that really made me feel like, I definitely got to go over there sooner than later. But then, of course, some things, have happened that maybe it's not so easy to do anymore. But thankfully, we can keep, connected. So I've been messaging, online a little bit with social media, which is great. But still, staying connected, as important as that is, it doesn't necessarily mean that the conversations are as clear or as productive as you want. And especially here, it can be very frustrating living in Miami and Florida. But I do overall think that the diversity brings a lot to the table, that even with all the clashing opinions and positions, whether it's family members or friends, especially on an election year, I've seen so many people lose their friendships, and my friendships are very dear to me, and so I try to hold on to those. But there are family members that, they kind of don't want to hear the other side, at least, or they don't want to at least try to stay together and work through some of those issues. And it can be very saddening, it can be very frustrating, and even angering to hear some of these things. But I just do think it is important to kind of keep hearing each other out. One of the things that generally I do love to see is that so many of us, whether we have different political or religious leanings, we do really appreciate the country. I see it as a huge opportunity, and it's just so lucky that I was so close to having a very different lifestyle that probably would not have been as comfortable, I don't know if it's appropriate actually, but my first tattoo is actually the Cuban flag and the American flag. I have the American flag in the front because I'm an American first, but Cuba's my background, of course.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was my first one, and everything, has to do with family at the end of the day for me, most things, whether it's a family you choose or not choose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This doesn't mean, anything to anybody else. It just has to do with my identity, but it also has a lot to do with what it means for me to be an American. Not being xenophobic or exclusive, but actually being more inclusive, and our cultures, really rubbing off on each other. Not just this assimilation thing at all. It's really more about acculturation and accommodation, so that these cultures can really blend and merge, just like a good, dish, at a restaurant.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely what at least it means to most of us, is trying to go to a place where you can be yourself, as well as embrace, other parts of the culture, whether it's the superficial things like customs and holidays, or the deeper things like valuing education, valuing, freedom of speech, I'm very very distrustful of places where it's all state-run media. I am actually kind of like hesitant to even visit places like that, and I just love when people are very adventurous and explore those places. Also, it's just me being kind of honest about some of my misgivings, not because I'm opposed to it. Generally, just me, like, I don't know, maybe I watch too many movies, about people, tourists getting trapped somewhere. But I do really look forward to visiting and visiting other places too, because it does give you more of an appreciation for some things. Whether it's just leaving your part of the state or leaving another country. And democracy can definitely mean a lot of things to different people, but at the end of the day, at least being able to voice yourself is just so fundamental. That's definitely one thing that we all appreciate, no matter how we feel about those relations, whether it's Cuba and America, or just communism, being left, right, or centrist. We definitely have that in common, which is important, so we could keep the lines of communication open.
And finishing with Cuba, there was a lot of protests happening this summer. Do you think there'll ever be a time where Cuba won't be ruled by a communist state?
Yes, but I couldn't say that I'll live to see it. I definitely don't take that for granted. It really, it definitely hits very close to home. Like I said, even if I didn't have family there, I'd feel really concerned about what's happening. And it's also the futility. They're so close. It's right there, but not being sure what you can do. Like I said, I have family that's come here, I have family that's there. I've had family that flies here, and family that comes that horrible way. In the water, taking their lives, in their own hands. I would definitely want that to stop. But when people get riled up, on the one hand, I'm inspired by the enthusiasm, and especially by the people who are being so brave. Marching here is brave, but marching over there is just a whole other ballpark. You know what I mean? It's something so much braver and riskier. But at the same time, I can't help but be very skeptical about the changes that will actually occur. And I also just, I wish I had the answers, but I couldn't tell anybody, they obviously need to be doing this or not this. You know what I mean? I do get pretty annoyed when people want to place all of it on one or two people. Cuba has always had baggage, even before, communism, for a very long time. Even before the Communist Manifesto, Cuba has had baggage when it comes to imperialism and exploitation and the wiping out of all of the native people, like the Taínos and Lo Caribe. And there were some pretty mean fascists before the communists. So really, let's just say totalitarianism. When is that going to go? I hope that I live, to see the day, but I don't take it for granted at all. And I definitely don't think that it's just a matter of time passing. One of the things that we definitely hope that we learn from history and from the literature that we read, like 1984 and anything else, is that it does take people stepping up. And when people don't step up somehow and voice those concerns and try to speak truth to power, then nothing's going to happen. There's also, I'll just throw out a great Netflix special that it's like a mini series on Cuba. I forget what it's called, but it's great, talking about the history all the way, pretty much up to just a couple of years ago. So It doesn't include the more recent riots and everything. But that one is pretty good at kind of trying to explain in a fairly simplified way that has lots of different views, not just one or two views. We've got lots of Europeans, Latin Americans, and Americans, chiming in about that. But, fingers crossed, but also the futility. Like I said, maybe we could just donate this money, and it's not always clear how the money can actually get there. Like I know I sent some money over, fingers crossed, like, I know this person that says if you Venmo here, it'll actually go there. And you're just like, this sounds super shady, but I don't know what else to do. I'm not sure what else to do other than voice my opinion. It's great to put a flag on your car, but that's obviously not going to get all the change that we want. You know what I mean? Or a flag on your arm, whatever it is. It's symbolic, but real change, I wish I knew the answer.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Partagas.
Oh, no, thank you very much, Johnny.